All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Art of Awesomeness podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Kiswani. This is episode 81. And as you might be able to tell, this episode is unfortunately plagued by the same kind of technical difficulties that we experienced last episode, but in a different way. Last episode, obviously, we got the visual, right, from my phone, but the audio wasn't that great since it was the onboard mic on my phone. So I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Next episode, I'm going to make sure that we've got, solid audio. So I got the mic all hooked up, getting ready, and batteries for camera decided not to charge. So now we're in perpetual darkness. Can't see anything. It's all black screen. Actually, I might. Man, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna put as a screen saver, so to speak, for the episode. But just know, trying to work on some, ironing out some of these technical difficulty issues so they're not lasting ones. But this episode, I guess podcasts are at their core audio, so it's not like this is a major podcast sin or anything. But as far as our podcast goes, I can't think of another episode off the top of my head, at least, where there was absolutely no visual. I know there are some instances where we would have to like freeze frame it sometimes, but I don't know if we've ever had a purely just black screen, no visual whatsoever. So apologies for that technical difficulty. Hopefully the better audio quality will make up for it. But for this episode, we have a pretty cool episode today. But apart from the technical difficulties, we do, of course, have the first order of business, that being Happy National Pigs in a Blanket Day and Pet Parents Day. So pigs in a blanket, to me, at least seems kind of straightforward. I mean, I don't really see how you could celebrate it without just getting pigs in a blanket, literally or metaphorically, I guess. But Pet Parents Day, I think Pet Parents Day is just like people who think their pets are their kids or children. So, yeah, don't do that. That's weird. Get real children. And other than that, yeah, those are the national days. Celebrate those how you want. And this episode is brought to you by, we're not sponsored, but it is brought to you by a comment from a recent Instagram poll that I put on my Instagram story. For any of those of you who know any of our Instagrams, mine, Christian, The Art of Awesomeness, from time to time, we'll put up polls on our stories regarding podcast topics, questions that we can answer on the podcast. And so, from time to time, I'll put one of those on my Instagram. And my Instagram isn't private. You don't have to follow me if you don't want to. You can just hop on the story, see what the question is, type in a response, and we will, of course, keep your name anonymous unless otherwise specified. But for this week, I put on the podcast question, what is something you currently struggle with in life that you'd like to fix? And we got, so far, as of the making of this video, one glorious response. And of course, that response is by someone who I will not name because it is, of course, an anonymous questioning system. Although I will say that this person who sent this question in is a good friend of mine, and I respect this person dearly. And so answering this question is definitely a personal thing, trying to hopefully help out this individual who I know. And then also, I imagine what he said is conducive to what a lot of other people are going through. At least in this generation, possibly due to social media and things of that nature. What am I talking about? They answered in 2 words, which was compulsive lying, which is the topic of this episode. So something they're struggling with in their life and that they'd like to fix is compulsive lying. So this episode, I'm going to cover a few things. If you can hear like this is paper that I have in my hand. I printed out some of my thoughts just so I can keep them kind of concise. I wrote out like bullet points, so I'm probably going to just kind of go off of what I wrote here just so I don't get too off topic, because I want to make sure that I answer this question to the best of my ability. So to go about this, I'm going to first answer the question, what is compulsive lying? This is a brief, quick Google search definition of compulsive lying. And it reads, compulsive lying is the condition in which a person tells falsehoods out of habit, sometimes for no good reason at all. And I highlighted that last part, sometimes for no good reason at all. And so we're going to kind of go into that. And I think that's a key thing to remember here, that it's a person who tells falsehoods out of habit. That's one part of it, but for no good reason at all is an important piece. And that's kind of what we're going to be breaking down here in a few ways. Now, I will say, we do sometimes tell white lies in passing to maintain peace, right? So I'll give you an example, right? If someone walks up to you, this is very true for us guys, if a girl walks up to you and she says, does this dress make me look fat? The answer, always, 110% of the time, is no, you look great. That's how you respond to that question. For anyone who's out there wondering or curious, when asked, does this dress make me look fat? The answer is no, you look great. That's how you respond. So that's, and sometimes that's very true, right? Sometimes that's very true, but sometimes you tell white lies in passing just to kind of maintain the peace and not disturb the flow, let's say. And, this kind of changes if, this specific example kind of changes if it's, your significant other or something, because if it's one thing if a dress makes someone look unflattering, but if someone's actually overweight and fat, then it probably means they're going to live a shorter lifespan. They might develop some very varying ailments as they age. So you might just want to help them be not fat, just for their own personal health, apart from looks, although that is definitely an aspect of it. But I digress from that. Essentially, my point being, sometimes we use white lies just to kind of get through the day. So, another poignant example is when someone asks, how's your day? And you respond, typically, good. And you? And meanwhile, you could be having a really bad day, but I can't tell you how many times I've walked into work and said, good morning. And then the people who I work with say, oh, hi, Adrian, how's your morning? And I just say, oh, good. And you? And that's it. Now, meanwhile, I could be having the worst day, the worst morning, but I'm not going to say that, right? I'm going to keep it professional, just going to keep moving on with my day. And I'm not trying to disturb the flow of my day that much, right? And so these kinds of, I guess, lies and passing, right? They're technically lies, right? If we're going with the real technical route, they are lies, but it's not, they're not the kind of lies that typically cause issues, right? What we're talking about here is compulsive lying. And that implies that you do it all the time for large and small issues, innocent lies, so to speak, and real ones. So this whole compulsive lying, where it's just kind of a habit that you do, it's a regular, consistent thing, that's when it can become very problematic, because then you're lying when it's inconvenient, right? You're lying when you really should just be telling the truth. And so we need to learn how to fix this issue. But I figured I'd go over that first and foremost, just to make sure that we kind of know what compulsive lying is, right? Where it's a habit for no good reason at all. And there are, general white lies we tell throughout the day just to maintain some level of peace, right? So how do we go about fixing this issue? I think it's important to understand that the reason that we lie, right? Now, compulsive or non-compulsive, in the sense that, habit or not habit, the reason we lie in general is because we're insecure, and we want people to like us, right? We have an ideal image in our head of who we are. I would say many, if not all of us, are not that person. Now, some people, granted, might be closer to that ideal than others, right? But we all have this idealized version of ourselves in our heads. And I would venture to say that all of us, to an extent, are not fulfilling the ideal image that we have in our heads, right? But we want as many people as possible to see us as we see ourselves in our minds. So we pretend to be that person when people ask us things, so they think that we are who we wish we were, right? So that's an important piece to understand, that generally compulsive lying, part of it is that it stems from deep-rooted insecurity about who you are because you're not living up to an ideal standard in your mind. So I did a little thinking on this, and this is just my opinion. My opinion on this is subject to change if someone, tells me something different. But from what I kind of understand and how I've gone about, solving similar issues in my life, the most legitimate fix is, one, you should ask yourself what you are lying about and why you're lying about it, right? So if it's out of an insecurity, right? If it's out of you trying to portray yourself to others as something that you're not because you're insecure about who you really are, right? Then my advice is to then live your life to match the lie, so to speak. And I know that sounds kind of weird, so I'm going to go into it here to explain it a little bit. But so let's say, for example, right? You're lying about your athletic achievements, right? Are you lying about, your age, your height? It's very easy on, social media, dating apps especially are notorious for this, where you have people lying about their height or their age, or they'll even post fake pictures that aren't even pictures of them, but they'll do it just to make people view them in a better light, even though it's not even the real them, right? And so you have to ask yourself, are you lying about athletic achievements? Are you lying about your age, your height? Are you lying about your past, right? Or are you lying about, guys I know will lie about their income oftentimes. Or some people might lie about their well-being, right? They might say that they're fine or that they're okay when they're not really okay. And this is different than, just kind of a general passing, oh, you're at the store, you're walking up to the cashier and they say, oh, how are you? You say good. And you, kind of a thing. But if it's a genuine conversation, let's say, with someone, and they're asking you how you are, and you still just kind of compulsively lie about it, right? These are the kind of things that we need to be looking out for. And I would say that the answer to why you're lying is that you're using the lie to project what you wish were the truth, even though it isn't. So what you're lying about is generally, your lie is you saying what you wish you were, or you wish you would have done, or you wish you looked like, but you don't. So you lie about it because it's what you wish the truth was. So kind of going back to my point on living your life to match the lie, what I mean when I say that is the best fix is to make two things here. Make peace with who you are, and or devote time to improving who you are so that you are not so insecure. So, lying, as we said, comes from insecurities, right? Many lies, most lies, I would say, come from insecurities, right? If you are happy with the truth, in all likelihood, you would just tell the truth, right? Because if the truth is something that you are comfortable with, there wouldn't really be any point to lying. You would just tell the truth because it's good in your eyes. But because you hate the truth, right? The fact that you hate reality, you lie. to make reality seem better to others than it really is. So improve your reality, right? If you are lying about your mile time, right? Let's say, for example, someone asks you, hey, what's your mile time? And you say, oh, 6 minutes. When it's really, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes. Train until you can run it in 6, right? Because your ideal self in your mind is running a 6-minute mile, sorry. When in reality, your true self is only running a 10-minute mile. So instead of lying about how many minutes it takes you to run a mile, actually train and work until you can run it at the ideal speed that you want, right? If you lie about your income, right? And you say that you make far more than you do, that means that ideally in your mind, you want to be making more than you are right now. So change jobs maybe, or increase your work ethic. Maybe get educated or certified in something. Maybe get a second job, just increase your income somehow, right? If it's bothering you that much. Because when you lie about something, it's revealing an insecurity. So one way to fix it is to think, okay, I'm lying about this because I'm insecure about it. And I would probably be happier if the lie that I was saying right now was true. So try and make it true, right? If you're lying about your mile time, make it true so that you can actually say with 100% honesty and certainty that you can run a 6-minute mile if that's what you want to do, right? And then you won't have to lie about being wealthier or faster or whatever because you are those things, right? So that's kind of one spectrum of it where, you're lying about something that you can do or that you want to be, but you're not that. And it's revealing in a way what your ideal life or self is. Pursue that and try and actually make these lies you're telling real so that instead of having to pretend to be someone, you can actually be that person. And thus, that would make you far less insecure. Now, on the other hand, right, if you lie about things that are unchangeable, right, I'm talking your height, your eye color, your past, right? You can't change what happened in the past. My best advice would be to make peace with these things and to understand that they are the real you. You can't change your height. Okay. You can't change your eye color. You can't change what happened to you in the past. These are some things that, the 6-minute mile, you can change that, right? If you're running a 10-minute mile, you can bring it down. If you're working a certain job and you're making a certain amount of money, you can make more, right? There are ways to make more. If you claim to have, I don't know, gone on some trip somewhere when you really have never been there a day in your life, it might do you good to actually take a legitimate trip somewhere and say that, oh, I've actually been to this place instead of lying about it, for example, right? But, your physiology, right? Your childhood, there are certain things about you that you can't change. And thus, the unchangeable things, the things that are what they are and that are out of your control, right? Those things you need to make peace with. And I would say from a spiritual perspective on this, don't be ashamed of what God made in your mother's womb, right? God has the hairs on your head numbered, right? That's what the Bible says about the matter, right? If he wanted you to be taller, he would have made you that way, right? If he wanted you to have blue eyes instead of brown eyes, he would have given you blue eyes, right? But, these unchangeable factors, right? These uncontrollable factors are what we have to learn to make peace with and embrace, right? I mean, there have been plenty of times where, I'm a brown-eyed guy. I have brown eyes. There have been plenty of times where I thought to myself, man, it would be cool if I had some different eye color, right? Plenty of times I've thought that. But at the end of the day, I know what I've been given. I've been given brown eyes. And so I've made, peace, I guess you could say, with that fact. And I'm happy about the way that I look, right? Now, there are certain controllable factors, right? If you want to get in better shape, in better physical condition, you can actually go do that. But you can't really work out your eyes, or work out your hair type, or work out, the color of your skin, the amount of melanin you have. There are certain things that you can't change, and these things we just need to embrace and accept. And if you can fully embrace and accept who you are naturally, then you won't feel this compulsive need to lie about these things. For example, social media has really made this quite rampant. Social media filters, a lot of girls use filters that make them look completely different to how they are in reality, right? Because they're insecure about who they really are. So if you were to embrace who you really were, you wouldn't feel that compulsive need to lie and to put up a front and to embrace something other than what is. So I would make sure that you change the changeable things, right? If that makes you feel any better, and then make peace with the unchangeable things, right? The things that are outside of your control. And maybe lying about yourself to others makes you feel better in the moment, but when they find out the truth, which they inevitably do, believe me, it hurts, and they feel rightly lied to. So lying about yourself will not improve yourself, right? You might think that it's kind of improving yourself because your brain is saying, oh, here I am out telling this lie about myself, but all these other people around me who I'm telling it to believe it. So if I tell people around me that I'm this super cool guy with an awesome past and I'm super experienced in this, that, and the other, and I make myself out to be someone who I'm not to other people, it makes me internally feel good because they believe in the ideal version of me that I wish that I was. So that's a deep reason why, but it's not worth it because it doesn't improve you, right? It improves you in the minds of other people, but deep down, you're not that person. So instead of lying about yourself to improve yourself, actually improve yourself, and you won't have to lie about yourself. And you have to learn to love the truth, right? You have to learn to love the truth, whether it's what you or others, for that matter, want to hear, right? Look, there are people out there in the world who don't want to hear the truth. That's the fact of the matter, right? There are some people, even themselves, who don't want to know the truth about themselves. Now, I'm the kind of a person, personally, or I love the truth enough that even if the truth hurts, I still want to know it. I don't want to live in blissful ignorance. That's not how I want to live my life. And I don't recommend that for people either. Blissful ignorance is blissful, but it's ignorance. And ignorant is not something that we should be characterized by. We should be knowledgeable and full of truth. And if that truth hurts us or others, it doesn't change the matter. So it's not easy to love the truth always, but in my opinion, it is necessary for you to live a better life in the long run. And yeah, maybe lying makes you feel good in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to regret it. I can almost guarantee you that. Now, apart from insecurities, right? Apart from you being kind of insecure and unsatisfied with your real self, compulsive lying might also be a sign that you are fearful of confrontation. So this is just a fact about truth here, right? Truth can be very, very, very confrontational, right? Because truth confronts us with reality, which again is something that not everyone wants to hear or to know or to even believe, right? So the truth can be confrontational. The truth even can bring about violence in some instances. So, but let's bring this down to a micro level, right? If someone asks you what your favorite team is, and you know for a fact that their favorite team is the rival to your team, so your favorite team is a team that they hate, you might see how it's easy for someone in that situation to just lie and say, oh yeah, my favorite team is some other team, or maybe even your same team, for the sake of avoiding an argument and confrontation. But this only works in the short term, right? Because in the short term, he might be like, oh, cool, I like that team too, or that's cool, we like the same team. But in the long term, it catches up to you, and it won't be worth it then. So my advice is to not do it in the first place, right? Let the people laugh at you. Let people argue, right? Allow for some confrontation in your life. I'm not saying to escalate situations super crazy to the point where there's fists being thrown, but what I am saying is allow for some discourse, right? Allow for some confrontation. Allow for some verbal sparring, right? Because I'm telling you, it's better to resolve conflict early on than to let it brew over time only to explode sometime later. So, apart from realizing why you lie and adjusting your life so that the lies have no value, you must also practice telling the truth. So, look, understanding why you lie and trying to remove the need and the cause to lie is great. That's awesome. But it is just as important to make sure that you practice. If you are a compulsive liar and this is an issue for you, you might have to practice telling the truth. So keep an ear out for situations where you'd normally lie and be upfront in those situations, right? So, for example, right, I'll throw at you a couple examples. If someone says, hey, was it you who forgot to wash the dishes? A compulsive liar might just say, oh no, it was Jeremy. He forgot to wash the dishes. I'm sure it was his day. I was out doing something else. It wasn't my day. And you would try and justify that. Well, then Jeremy comes home and he says, no, it was definitely your day to do the dishes. And now you have an argument regardless, right? So the lying worked in the short term to kind of take the heat off you, but then it comes back later to confront you. So you don't want anything like that. Right? Instead, tell the truth. Someone says, hey, did you forget to wash the dishes? Say, oh yeah, it was me. Sorry, I'll wash the dishes twice this week to make it up for it. Just something simple like that, sorry, it won't happen again, And they'll respect you for that. They'll respect you a whole lot more for just owning up and saying, oh yeah, no, it was me. Yeah, I forgot to wash the dishes on, you know what, I'm willing to fix it. I'll even wash dishes twice this week to make up for it. How's that? People will respect you for that. They'll respect you a whole lot more than if you were to just compulsively lie and say no. And even worse if you put the blame on someone else. I know I've been talking about athletics sometimes here, like running a mile. So let's go back to that. If someone asks you, hey, can you run a mile in 6 minutes? Instead of lying compulsively and saying, yeah, I can run a mile in 6 minutes, I can run it in 5. Just say, no, I can only run it in 10, but I'm working on bringing down my time, right? Just something simple like that. Be upfront, be real, and they'll respect you for that, right? They'll respect you for being like, oh, okay, yeah, this is how it is, but this is what I'm doing to fix it. And that's what I want you to notice about the two examples that I just made. Right? In both situations, you were upfront. You gave the truthful answer, but you're also working towards making yourself ideal. right? Because why would you normally lie in these situations, right? You would normally lie about, let's say, the mile time because you're insecure and you really would like to run the mile in 6 minutes, but you can't. You can only run it in 10. So by being upfront and saying, yes, sorry, I can only run it in 10 minutes, but I'm working on bringing my time down, that shows some commitment in trying to actually make yourself an ideal runner or an ideal whatever for that matter, right? So it's good to practice keeping it up front and keeping things truthful. Speech impediment moment there. But it's also important, just as important, I would say, to actually work on making yourself better in whatever capacity that is. So that's something to think about there. And remember that it might not seem that way, right? When you're someone who is, not really that confrontational and you're just trying to smooth the waters and, you're just trying to get by. But it's definitely better in the long run to just be upfront with people. And of course, I'm not saying to be disrespectful to people, because that's another way to escalate confrontations, and you're really not going to like confrontation then. But what I am saying is to make sure that you're upfront and honest with people, because they're going to respect you more, and you are going to be at a better standing with people than if you would be lying to them. Because here's the fact of the matter. The truth is you can't build relationships on lying. Okay, you can only build true relationships upon trust. That's the only way that you can build relationships with people, is being truthful and being honest with them. Lying is not going to get you there. Again, short term might help you out. Long term, it's going to be your downfall. And so make sure that you always remember that the truth is always revealed in the end in some way, and you don't want that to be in an ugly way that brews over months or weeks or years or whatever. Be upfront. Make sure that you allow for some confrontation if that needs to happen. Let people laugh at you. That's fine. Let people argue. That's also fine. As long as they know who the real you is, then that's what's important. What would be bad is if you were to pretend to be someone who you're not. That would be the worst case scenario. So, all in all, don't lie, which seems kind of obvious, but tell the truth, right? Embrace truths so that you cannot change. Okay, you cannot change yourself with lies, right? The truths will secure you and make you into someone who can't be tossed to and fro, right? When you're lying, you're trying to be someone who you're not all the time, and you're kind of putting up a mask all the time to people. You're putting on a mask that isn't genuine, and you're putting up a front that isn't real. So people are thinking these ideal things about you, but it's not the real you. And at some point, that's going to eat you up inside, and it's not going to be a good day when things come to a head. So embrace truths, right? Embrace truths and work towards improving yourself, right? So that you feel more confident and you don't have a need to lie about yourself. If you're working on improving yourself every day, you're not going to feel insecure, right? Because you're constantly working at battling those insecurities, right? And you're not going to have that need, that compulsive need to lie about yourself, to lie to other people. Because at the end of the day, people will like you more if you're upfront with them. And you know what? Some people, on the flip side of things, some people will hate you for what you believe, for what you say, for who you are. And that's fine, right? That's fine. Let them, right? Because for as many people that hate you, there are going to be some people who love you. But the people who love you can only do so if they know you. And if they know that you're honest, and they know that if you're truthful. So that's an important thing to remember. So hopefully this helps some of you out. I know this was definitely a cool topic for me to kind of break down. I had a good time looking into it a little bit and thinking over this topic. So I would encourage you all, any of you out there, if this helped some of you, definitely reach out on Instagram. Again, my handle is just my name, Adrian Kiswani, and my account isn't private, so you don't have to follow me, again, if you don't want to. And you can reach out and send in topics, send in questions for us to talk about like this, in this kind of format, hopefully with the camera next time. But yeah, it definitely helps to get that kind of audience feedback so that we know that we're helping the people who are listening to these episodes. And with that, we're going to end the podcast. We do, of course, have the verse of the day, which is going to be Mark 14:38, which reads, "Watch ye and pray, lest ye enter into temptation. For the spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is weak." And, the spirit is always going to be trying to speak truthfully and to be honest and to be upfront, right? But the flesh, that's the part of you that's going to tend to lie. So make sure that you watch yourself, right? Pray about it. Watch your behavior, right? Any instances where you normally lie, catch yourself in that moment and tell the truth. Break down your lying habits to the core. Is it out of insecurity? Is it out of a fear of confrontation? Is it a combination of both? Whatever it is, find the source and then kill it there. And replace your habits with truthful ones. And you will be living a far better and far more honest life than you would otherwise. And with that, we're going to wrap up episode 81 of the Art of Awesomeness podcast. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I definitely enjoyed filming it. Filming it. I definitely had a good time recording it with the audio. And definitely reach out if you'd like us to cover your topic or to cover your questions in future episodes. With that, have a great day, and we will see you next week. Have a good one. Take care.